in San Francisco, California at EnerCom's the Oil and Services Conference. Joining me now is Steve Jumper, President and CEO of Dawson Geophysical. Welcome, Steve.
Hi, Quinn. Thanks for having me again.
For investors who might be new to the Dawson name, can you tell us about your company's key competitive advantages and core strengths?
Well, there's a couple things we can touch on. One, we've been around a long time. The name is 60 years old. We've been a publicly traded company now since 1981, and so we've built a core business. It's really pretty simple. It is helping our E&P clients find, develop, and produce hydrocarbon reservoirs. And the tool by which we do that is the seismic method, specifically 3D seismic method. And so I think just by virtue of name recognition, we have an advantage. Couple that with the fact that we operate 14 crews in the lower 48. We've just recently entered the Canadian market. We have a very large channel count, so our ability to scale crews that are necessary to perform any particular function is very robust. We've made a significant movement in the last 3 years into cableless technology, which has allowed us to deploy a large number of channels, produce a very high resolution image, very cost effectively, at the same time improving our financial results. I think when you get right down to it, I think we have some very highly skilled, qualified people who are experts at taking a technology that's readily available and implementing it in a way that is cost-effective, operationally sound, and we can perform all those services that are necessary. And so I think we're a little bit more than just a, quote, seismic company. I think we're more of a technology company with a great equipment base, a great balance sheet, and really some solid key people and some solid relationships.
Fiscal Q1 is typically your most challenging quarter. This year, however, you posted significant increases in both net income and EBITDA on a quarter-to-quarter basis. What drove your success?
Well, we're a September 30 fiscal year end, and so our first fiscal quarter, 13, was the December quarter, the most recent quarter, and so it's actually calendar 4 quarter. Historically, we deal with shorter days, wintertime, holiday season, winter conditions, a lot of weather issues that impact utilization rates. And so, it's just a tough time of the year to work. I wouldn't say that we're seasonal, and we've had some quarters that are not Q1 that have been worse than Q1. But as a general rule, it has been our most difficult quarter. This past quarter, we had some great efficiencies on the ground. Our crews just did a great job executing. Some of them in some tough conditions, obviously. I think our utilization rate stayed high. The weather wasn't too bad. I think the cableless equipment makes a big difference. When you have a shorter day, it's really important, really key as to when you can actually start working, when your recording equipment's ready. And obviously, cableless equipment is ready earlier by virtue of not having cables than a cable crew. And so I'm pretty pleased and real proud of the effort our people had to get that quarter in place. Now, we'll see what happens in Q2. Every quarter's a new one.
Yeah. Now, you recently talked a lot about the reduction in third-party charges.
Yeah.
What are third-party charges, and how has the reduction in these charges benefited Dawson?
Well, third-party charges are charges that we have to incur by utilizing certain subcontractors. For example, helicopter support services, specialized survey technology, dynamite energy sources. And so when you're working in areas with limited access, like the eastern part of the U.S., for example, we have to contract those services that we don't provide, and then we pass those charges along to our client as a pass-through charge. That's what we're calling third-party charges. So they flow through our income statement. They flow through the revenue stream, but they're a direct offset to expense. And so they have an apparent effect on margin. Now, our historical level is about 30% or so, 30-35% of our revenue to be third-party charges. It reached as high as 50% in 2010, 2011 timeframe. And so as we've moved west into more oil and liquid rich basins where there's more access, wide open terrain, we've had less of a dependence on those third parties. And so what we've actually seen is a reduction in overall revenue, primarily related to these third-party charges, but we've seen, for example, in this quarter compared to the first quarter of 12, we had an 11% increase in revenue net of those charges. And so as the third-party charges come down and we're offsetting that zero margin pass-through and revenue net of those charges goes up, it has had and will continue to have a positive impact on margins.
Now, we've heard you say it feels like we're back in the 2003, 2004 period again. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, you keep remembering that. And, you know, I get asked a lot, rightfully so, where are we in the cycle? And I think one of the things we deal with is that the geophysical work, seismic work, has moved to more of a lagging indicator more so than a leading indicator. And early in my career, seismic activity occurred first, then leasing, then drilling, and now it seems to be leasing, drilling, development, and then seismic. And so people are nervous about, when are the seismic operations going to shut down or increase or whatever the case may be. And I have to go back to my experiences. And in my experience in the 2003-2004 time frame was these companies had moved into natural gas shales, they had had the land rush, they'd had the drilling started, and then they realized they needed to have more information about their particular shale play. That not all two, there are no two shales alike. And so seismic activity actually increased. And so I don't know if we're the 2003, 4, 5 time frame, but I think we're in that part of the cycle, barring any catastrophes or unforeseen circumstances, to where our clients, for the most part, take an acreage position, they've done some drilling, and I think they really need to understand what they've got to further develop that field. If it's a baseball game, I don't know if it's the third inning. I don't know if it's I'm not that smart, and I don't have a crystal ball. But that's what I'm referring to. Is that I think we're pretty early in this oil liquid shale development plan.
Steve, is there anything else we should know about your company going forward?
We're excited. We've made this significant move into cableless technology. We are working in the more wide open spaces of the western U.S., particularly the Mississippi Line, West Texas, Permian Basin areas. I think those are areas that we're accustomed to. We've worked in those areas a long time. They're wonderful places to conduct seismic activity, and so I think there's some upside for us and our industry. I think that as we continue to move forward, I think we're going to continue to see a pressure for our tool to move farther along in the development phase, get more involved in the production phase. It's going to be hard to do. There's a demand for our science and our industry and our company to improve the technology and to move that way, but I really feel like we're going to see a convergence of engineering type work and geophysical type work, which is exciting. And so we've got a great balance sheet. We've got great staff, great technical folks, and demand for our services appears to be relatively strong. So we're excited. We'll see what happens.
Well, Steve, always an honor to talk with you. We appreciate your time.
Well, thank you, Quinn. It's a pleasure to be here again. Thank you.
Steve Jumper with Dawson Geophysical.